forbidden photos of a lady above suspicion. Not Your Ally requested that I do a video talking more in depth about why I love forbidden photos of a lady above suspicion. So I jumped on that real quick. This video is just going to be me discussing the movie with you, mostly why I love it and a little bit of what I didn't love. This film was directed by Luciano Ercoli. It was released in 1970 and it stars Dagmar Lasseter, Susan Smith, and Simone Trobot. It's basically a story about a woman who gets manipulated, tricked, and abused by a creep. I know, the premise doesn't sound that appealing, but I loved this movie, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I'm going to loosely walk us through the plot when it's necessary, just to kind of if you've seen it before, it'll help jog your memory, and then if you haven't seen it before, it'll kind of help explain what's going on. This video will have spoilers. So what I did in preparation for this video is I watched the film a second time and I created kind of a bullet list of things I wanted to say about the movie. Most of those items are things I love. What do I love about forbidden photos? Well, first of all, the title. As soon as I saw that title, I was like, yeah, I need to watch that. That's really a determining factor for me when I'm choosing to watch a movie. The next thing I love about this movie is the opening scene. The main character, played by Dagmar, is Minou. And Minou is in the bathtub with a full face of makeup, and she's smoking, and she's just thinking to herself, and we get this internal dialogue from her, and it just really sets the scene. It grabbed me from the beginning. Now, I have watched another review on this movie, and it's before I knew I was going to make this video, but it was the Bad Movie Night channel. I watched their full review of this film, and one thing they said is that they wish that Minou's internal dialogue continued throughout the film, that we got to see it more than just this time, and I do agree. The next thing I love about this movie is the colors. The colors of Minou, the outfits, the clothes they wear. Minou has this red hair and then wears this powder blue eyeshadow and pink lipstick, and sometimes she'll have a mint dress on or a hot pink dress on. I just love all the color in this film. The next thing I love is the interiors of the house. The settings, the landscapes, the views, everything is just so gorgeous to look at. I love that luxury kind of setting that a lot of these Gialli take place in. It is a breathtaking film. The next thing I love is the soundtrack by Ennio Morricone. This soundtrack is one of my top favorite Giallo soundtracks I've come across so far. I want this to be playing in my house while I go and pour myself some brandy wearing a beautiful silky bathrobe. It is just such a vibe. And I'm always going around singing it. The next thing I love, this kind of goes along with the theme of luxury. I love the leisurely nature of Minou's life. Although it is kind of a Giallo trope. She's the wealthy but bored and lonely housewife who is also quite freaking helpless. The next thing I love about this movie is Minou. Here in this opening scene, you can tell she's daydreaming, she's making plans. She's thinking about changing things. She's thinking about ways to make her life more interesting or more exciting. But Minou is one of those characters who takes little action, who demonstrates very little agency. Like when she gets dressed in that pink dress, which is amazing, by the way. She gets dressed and she's like, maybe I should undo this a little bit. And then she just does it right back up. She's like, I'm going to stop drinking. And then she pours a drink. Now, I won't say I like that about Minou, but it's relatable. It's so relatable. We have all done something like that. We'll be like, I really need to eat healthy, and then immediately eat a donut or whatever. We all are like that sometimes, so I liked kind of seeing that in her. And similarly, she kind of just lets life happen to her rather than taking initiative and enacting change in her life. And I'm sure we all know somebody like that who's just a kind of a victim of their own life. The next thing I love about this movie is something that I love to see in a lot of Jolly, and that's the sort of glamorized casual drinking. They do it constantly, like for any reason, but it's in the fanciest way. All these like crystal glasses, and it's just so proper. I don't know. And the excessive smoking too, really. They're not thinking about how it's bad for you. These were like simpler times when they didn't think they were killing themselves or doing something wrong. I feel like there's a lot of guilt associated with that sort of lifestyle now. So I don't know, it's just so fancy to watch. You know, let's pour some brandy. It's 2:00. Shall we have a drink? I just love it. It makes me want to have a little table in my house with nice glasses and a little decanter of liquor of some sort. Okay, next, let's talk about the creeper. At the beginning, he tracks down Minu and he tells her that he has proof that his husband is a murderer, and he like threatens her and stuff. A lot gets revealed by the end, but I'm like, who is he and where is he coming from and what are his motivations? It was all really weird. It definitely like had you guessing and had you asking a lot of questions in true Giallo fashion. But yeah, he's an interesting character. His intimidation game, his manipulation game was quite interesting, and he definitely looks super creepy. I know I've seen him in another movie before, but I forgot to look him up. As I mentioned, this creeper tells Minu, like, your husband's killed someone. And then he, like, cuts up her dress with a long pointy stick. And I find it so interesting that she's much more concerned about a rumor about her husband than she is about... She basically just got, like, attacked. Next, Minu goes to a bar and just starts ordering drinks for herself. And that's another thing, I just love that illusion that alcohol can fix everything, even though it can't. And then Minu sits down with these strange men who don't really talk, but they tell her to sit down with them. It's really weird. I feel like she must know them. But I thought it was kind of cute. She was just like drinking her sorrows away, sitting next to these two old guys playing cards. And honestly, I was relieved that they weren't creepers too. The next thing I love is the club scene. Oh my gosh, and the wigs. These 70s wigs are so interesting. I'm not sure if I love them or hate them. Oh, and the music, wild, and then the dancing. 70s dancing that I see in these movies, it's so like arrhythmic and chaotic. It's so weird. I'll have to do a demonstration sometime. At the club, we meet Dominique. Dominique is Minu's best friend, I guess. Dominique is awesome. She is such an interesting character. She's wonderful. She's the friend that's just a lot more confident and daring. She's a woman with a lot of agency. And at the club, they're talking about how a guy that Minu's husband knows has died. And Minu starts thinking, like, what if this is the murder that my husband committed? And I think this is another opportunity where that internal dialogue would have been useful. Just seeing how Minu is starting to wrap her head around this and form her opinions on this, but instead we just have silence. The next scene does have some of that internal dialogue, but it's just Minu reading the paper. The next thing I loved about this movie was the turtle. Did that turtle have a name? I just thought that was the cutest little Easter egg, the cutest little detail to throw in there, that they just have a turtle that walks around the house. Okay, the next thing I love is when Dominique and Minu go for lunch or whatever, this breathtaking setting. I'm just living, and their outfits, I just can't handle it. I'm a visual person, in case you couldn't tell. After they blow this pop stand, they go to Dominique's place, where she starts showing Minu all these naked pictures of her. Dom is so dangerous that it kind of makes you grow suspicious of her. There's something eerie about her, and she's also just very smart and very quick on her feet. Dominique also has some of the best like one-liners in the movie. Another thing I love about this movie, which I've kind of already touched on, is just the wealth and the luxury and the glamour permeating throughout the film. I love how Minu talks, how she carries herself, her mannerisms, her posture. Everything is just so proper and so classy. I mean, I guess I low-key kind of yearn for this sort of lifestyle. I don't know. I just love it. The next thing I love is when Dominique and Minu go for lunch or whatever. This breathtaking setting. I'm a visual person, in case you couldn't tell. After they blow this pop stand, they go to Dominique's place, where she starts showing Minu all these naked pictures of her. Dom is so dangerous that it kind of makes you grow suspicious of her. There's something eerie about her, and sometimes. So just a little plot point here. We do get to spend some time with Minu and her husband Peter. He doesn't really matter that much. But you are wondering, is he a murderer? You're wondering. You're trying to see if it like fits. He is rather like closed off. They don't have a lot of communication in their marriage. That night, Minu gets a call from the creeper, and then of course she doesn't tell him. I don't understand why she doesn't tell her husband. The lack of communication is driving me crazy. Plot point again, just to like catch you up. Minu has been instructed to visit the creeper. So she does, and she brings money. She gives him the money, and he throws it everywhere. And he forces her to be his slave, okay, in exchange for his silence about the fact that Peter is a murderer. So I guess I would say something that I love about the movie in this context is the sympathy you feel for Minu. Like, you really do feel bad for her. They do a great job at evoking that feeling of sympathy. She is like trying so hard to keep her composure when literally everything's going terribly wrong. Another thing I loved about this movie is this love triangular tension going on between Dominique, Minu, and Peter. Because apparently Dom and Peter were involved before Minu came along. So we get this nice scene of the three of them at this table eating soup and staring at each other. And it is just so weird and funny and full of tension, and I loved it. This again is a great opportunity to have had some internal dialogue inside of Minu's mind. Another thing I loved is that this night Minu woke up from a nightmare and she went and got in the shower with all her clothes on. It immediately made me think of All the Colors of the Dark. I don't know if this is a common practice in Italy in the 70s or whatever. If you have a nightmare, just get in the shower in your pajamas. I don't know. But I like that. It's just kind of like I don't want to say a rock bottom moment, but it's like I am not okay moment. Another thing I loved about this movie specifically is Dom's dress. You know the one. What a dress. I think we need to have like a Giallo fashion awards. This would definitely be in the running. Another thing I loved about this film is the themes. And if you wanted to get all like critical theory on this film, there's a lot you could break down. We have like violence, sex, loyalty, trust. We even have a bit of a role reversal where Minu, who's always been the protected one, she suddenly turns around and has to be the protector and doesn't really know how to carry that. Another thing that I thought was highly interesting is Dominique's very flippant attitude towards sex, to the point where she is downplaying and even glamorizing assault. I was like, girl, you are part of the problem. She's like, oh, I wish someone would assault me. It was a stark contrast in feelings towards assault. Her versus Minu, who had just been assaulted. That just leaves me feeling contemplative. Okay, so towards the end of the movie, this isn't a very Giallo-like Giallo. There's not much violence, there's not much bloodshed, there's not many of those like thriller moments. But towards the end, we do get a dark and stormy night, and the creeper has come into the house, and there's a little bit of a struggle. We get some of those thriller vibes. And then we also get twists. So the twist is that Peter was behind all of it. Peter orchestrated the whole thing. And then the other twist is that Dominique was onto it, and she called the cops. And the cops saved the day. Okay, and I have to give Minu some credit here, because Peter said his intention behind this ploy was to drive Minu to suicide. And she was stronger than that. She didn't go there. And Peter was getting frustrated because she was holding on, you know? So she has that strength that I have to give her a little bit of credit for. So Dom saves the day. Looking back, I think Dominique might be the best part of this movie. I just love her. Watching a second time, I just have such a deep appreciation for her. I love a liberated woman. And there are like a ton of things that I love about Forbidden Photos. I have a few final thoughts. This film, it's got like the damsel in distress motif, the whole like battered woman thing going. Minu is not empowered. She doesn't exercise any agency. She doesn't communicate. And this film is largely about blackmail and grape. These are all kinds of things that I hate. But despite all of that, this movie shines. And I've got to say, if I am watching a great movie, I appreciate when they don't show really explicit brutality on screen. So props to Forbidden Photos for that. I also want to say that I feel like this film would have been a whole lot sexier if there was a little more consent. Judging by the title, I was under the impression that there'd be some sort of like sexy consensual scandal, not blackmail grape. So I hear the phrase style over substance a lot, especially when we're here in the Giallo genre. And I would say that I am definitely won over by style, even when there's lack of substance. I know a lot of people thought this movie was straight up boring, and I can see why they thought that, but I had such a great visual, aesthetically pleasing experience with some interesting characters that I thought it was amazing. I did not get bored because there was so much to look at. Now, I was wishing that there was like a little more Giallo thrills, like a little more dark moments, maybe a little more blood or mystery. This did kind of feel like a soap opera drama at times, but I forgive. Stylish movie, a beautiful time. That is why I love Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. Let me know your thoughts on the movie if you've seen it. And if you haven't seen it, just go like search for it on YouTube and let me know what you think. Until next time, Giallo friends. Ciao!